The planet Yam is dominated by a hyper-intelligent species known as the Drog, while humans, known to the Drog as Ohms, are mere pets at best, and a pestilence to be eradicated at worst. One such human, Ter, is raised as a pet before gaining access to the Drog's teaching machines. He then escapes with the device in order to share his newfound knowledge with the wild Ohm, but when the Drog attack, Ter and a handful of survivors must find a way to escape the Drog menace forever, and they set their sights on Yam's moon, a savage world on which waits the Drog's greatest secret. Before we begin, I'd very much appreciate it if you could click that like button. If you really do like this video, don't forget to subscribe for more content. The gigantic YouTube algorithm that looms over us all may just grant me a treat or two with your support, so thank you in advance. With that out of the way, let's get back to the subject at hand. The psychiatric clinic Laborde opened its doors in the early 50s near a small farming town in central France. Built on a radical and experimental treatment philosophy called institutional psychotherapy, the aim of the clinic was, and still is, to help patients without alienating them, to give them a responsible role in running the clinic without forcing bureaucratic controls on them, and to help them find assistance through group psychotherapy and working together. For many years, a young man named René Laloux worked at Laborde, counseling the patients in the art department and encouraging them to express themselves through group projects. Laloux and the patients worked primarily with shadow puppets and even broke into local television with a short called Tic Tac. Eventually, Laloux and the patients created a more refined animated short, Les Dents du Singe, or The Monkey's Teeth, that earned Laloux an Émile Cole Award for animation. It was through winning this award that he met a man named Roland Topor. The son of a naturalist painter, Topor was a fascinating figure himself, a celebrated surrealist who thought the state of surrealism had gotten too mainstream by the 1960s, which may or may not have been the fault of some eccentric Spaniard. Topor was a fan of René Laloux's work, and the duo began collaborating on the animated shorts Les Témoins and Les Escargots, the latter of which became a massive hit in art circles across Europe and Asia. After this, in the late 60s, and with the help of a few French film producers from Les Films Armorial, whose names I'm not even going to try to pronounce, Laloux and Topor decided to create a full-length animated feature based on the science fiction fantasy novel Ohms and Série by Stéphane Wool. Since there was no infrastructure for animated films in France at the time, production was moved to Czechoslovakia, where a few animation studios were in operation and could be hired on the cheap. After delivering most of the preliminary sketches and ideas for the film, now known as La Planète Sauvage, Topor largely departed the production, leaving it up to Laloux and the Czechs to do most of the work. The film was animated unconventionally. Instead of the cell animation techniques popularized by Disney and other major studios, Laloux opted to work with hand-drawn cutouts and stop motion, a technique he had used with his previous efforts with Topor and which called back to the shadow puppetry he did at Laborde. It was a laborious, tedious process, but not a terribly expensive one. All the production needed was time. By 1968, things looked good, and the film entered production in earnest, with Laloux regularly visiting the Czech studio to direct. Unfortunately, as anybody who knows their Cold War history should be able to tell you, on August 20th, 1968, the Soviet Union, unhappy with how liberal Czechoslovakia was becoming, invaded the country and began cracking down on things like free artistic expression and foreigners with capitalist aims who might exploit the working class. La Planète Sauvage managed to avoid the axe of the Soviet censors, but production was at a virtual standstill throughout the rest of 1968 through 1969, 1970, and even into 1971 when production was finally able to continue. For the music, they hired the French jazz pianist Alain Gouragui, who delivered a psychedelic, funk-infused, synthy-prog rock soundtrack that has since become almost as famous as the film itself, occasionally popping up on nightclub track listings, getting sampled by hip-hop artists, and being cited by many contemporary artists like the French band Air as a significant source of inspiration. La Planète Sauvage debuted at the Cannes Film Festival in May of 1973, where it was nominated for numerous awards and won the special prize, before getting a wide international release in December. In the US, it was dubbed into English and retitled Fantastic Planet, although the French title more directly translates to The Wild Planet. It received a lot of critical praise, but only found middling commercial success. In France, La Planète Sauvage only managed to attract a little over 800,000 admissions, which, while not terrible, is not a particularly big hit. For perspective, Walt Disney's animated Robin Hood, which released that same year, attracted almost 7.5 million admissions. The film has gone on to be a cult favorite, often appearing in animated film festivals and getting screened in college film classes and dorm rooms. Indeed, when I was showing movies to my friends in my dorm room in college, many moons ago, I would have loved *PLANÈTE SAUVAGE. I probably would have showed it as a double feature with 1981's Heavy Metal, a personal favorite at the time. But that doesn't mean *PLANÈTE SAUVAGE should be dismissed as early 70s psychedelia that only college kids can enjoy. This is a great science fiction film on its own merits, chock full of wildly imaginative ideas and thought-provoking imagery. The world of Yam is fascinatingly alien in ways you'd be hard-pressed to show in any other medium, with a dream logic to proceedings that works due to the total creative freedom on display. It deals with heady subject matter and can be interpreted in many interesting ways. It is certainly a commentary on animal rights, but it can also be read as a treatise on any kind of mass oppression or genocidal tyranny through a twisted lens of science fiction and fantasy. Don't ask me to explain the ending, though. Sure, it's a trippy motion picture that will leave you feeling like you might need to spend some time in Laborde after watching it, but it's also a stunning work of surrealist cinema that is singularly unique in its style and substance. Now, this is the point in my video where I'd normally try to put the film into the context of sci-fi cinema of the time, but *PLANÈTE SAUVAGE doesn't really fit into such a narrative. It is not beholden to any sort of greater context. Its imagery may have reflected some trends in surrealism, its visual style may have gone on to be an influence in animation, especially in relation to a certain British comedy troupe.
In the frozen land of Nador, they were forced to eat Robin's minstrels, and there was much rejoicing.
And Holmes and Seri certainly has a place in science fiction literature, but I like to think of *PLANÈTE SAUVAGE as a cinematic fever dream that exists out of time and out of place, the kind of thing that could only be created by a man who learned his craft from mental patients alongside one of the weirdest surrealists to come out of France. *PLANÈTE SAUVAGE simply must be seen to be appreciated. And that's all for today, my fellow Earthlings. If you like what I'm doing here, make sure you've hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. For more science fiction reviews in film and literature, head on over to my website at emcgill.com. If you want to have a say in what movies I cover next or get access to things like polls and bonus videos, check out my Patreon and consider helping me out there. Until next time, though, this is the Unapologetic Geek, telling you to never be ashamed of what you love, as long as you're not hurting anybody.
Ugh.